There's a video that has done the rounds on social media and on mainstream news channels, which I should point out is against the ethics code of channels to run that video at all, but most of them have. Jailed gangster and former member of parliament Atiq Ahmed and his brother Ashraf were shot dead, point blank, on live television while they were being taken to the hospital for a medical checkup in custody of the Uttar Pradesh police with half a dozen cops around them. They were shot by people who were posing as TV reporters. Now, we understand since then the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Mr. Nityanand, has set a three-member judicial inquiry committee to look into the entire matter. Police have been suspended. The committee will be headed by a retired judge, and the post-mortem of the brothers are being conducted. But we must remember something else, that this is not the first of this kind. Atiq's son Assad was killed in an encounter with the Uttar Pradesh Special Task Force on the 13th of April in Jhansi. And the Uttar Pradesh police have sort of acquired a reputation of using encounters to dispose of gangsters. Now, there are many legal problems with this. Fundamentally, we in India, our jurisprudence believes you are innocent until proven guilty, and you deserve your day in court. And the police cannot take matters into their own hands. But this particular instance is terribly worrying because of the manner in which it was conducted. Now, based on what we are hearing from different sources, the police tell us that these were three assailants, three young men who wanted to sort of make a name for themselves in the world of crime. So they carried out these murders. Taking the police's statement at face value, we have to ask the questions. How is it that such high-profile criminals, which the police claim that they were, that they had ISI links and they were, terrible criminals, how is it that the police were not able to keep them safe? And how is it that they were shot point blank in the side of the head while surrounded by 6 policemen? This doesn't look good for Uttar Pradesh law and order. On one hand, it either shows that the police is unable to maintain law and order and keep anybody safe at all, and on the other hand, one could also argue that the police didn't mind so much that these men were killed.
Well,
to help us understand what is going on in Uttar Pradesh, I always turn to one voice, and that is Mr. Sharat Pradhan, who is a very senior journalist, speaking to us out of Lucknow, who's tracked Uttar Pradesh for decades. And he joins us right now. Mr. Pradhan, thank you so much. I know that you are a man in great demand this evening because everybody wants to know from you what's going on in Uttar Pradesh. What is going on? In this particular instance, is it a failure of the police, or was the police a little smarter than we're giving them credit for?
Well, UP thrives on falsehood, particularly ever since this regime has come of Yogi Adityanath. They thrive on falsehood, and falsehood gets a ratification of the manner in which it is bombarded on people through the official media. Let me tell you to begin with, the UP government has a publicity budget of about some 14 to 1500 crores a year, annual budget. I don't think any other state in the country has anything even half of this. So that gives them the privilege of pounding anything that they want to and build their own narrative as they want. And that converts into public discourse, which is very skillfully done by the right-wing organizations like the RSS. Incidentally, even in this case, there is this suspicion, not only suspicion, now there have been some pointers to the fact that the main shooter in this case happened to be some Bajrang Dal fellow from Prayagraj. Prayagraj is the same place what was earlier called Allahabad. Yogi Adityanath's spree of changing names of cities with the slightest Islamic connotation, this is one of those examples. So anyway, and ever since, let me also add that ever since it is a strange coincidence that ever since it has acquired the name of Prayagraj, the crime figures, the crime graph has gone up drastically. And in this case, whatever happened in the last night with Atiq and his brother Ashraf, no sympathies for any criminal, and one criminal down is always welcome. But that doesn't mean that you bypass the rule of law. After all, we are not living in an anarchy state. This is a state democracy with a constitution, with certain laws which need to be followed in criminal justice. But Yogi Adityanath seems to be happier with his encounter and bulldozer policy, as it is called in common parlance. You know, he believes, which I feel is more like the Taliban justice. You must have heard the minister, UP government's senior most minister, Suresh Khanna, last night going on record to say that this is Asmani Insaf, means divine retribution. Another minister, Satat Dev Singh, who was earlier the state president of the BJP, also said the same thing. That's, you know, if you do something, this is a kind of tit for tat and this is act of God. You know, this is the way, if you glorify an encounter, you can understand what is the psyche of the people. You know, I was raising this question in my show this morning, that do we need courts at all in UP anymore? Or for that matter, even the police? Because whatever the police is doing is carrying out the whims and fancies of the powers that be. Yeah.
Mr. Pradhan, just before this, Atiq's son Asad was also gunned down in an encounter with the Uttar Pradesh police. What was the purpose of that? What purpose was served, in your opinion?
Well, you know, Asad was named as one of the key accused in the murder of Umesh Pal, that eyewitness of another murder case, which happened many years ago. That was of Raju Pal, and Umesh Pal was murdered on the 24th of February this year, and Asad was supposed to be the main accused who had carried out the entire murder. So said the police, because Atiq was doing a jail term in Sabarmati jail. So, you know, Asad was gunned down just for 3 days back before this chap Atiq's end came yesterday. And mind you, the stories that are doing rounds about Asad is that he had been in police captivity for quite some time. All along, it was stated, the family said that Asad was missing, while the police said that Asad was absconding. When, according to various insiders, they say that Asad had already been picked up by the police and they were waiting for an opportune time to gun him down. And the opportune time came now, when UP is about to go to urban local bodies polls early next month. So, you know, BJP BJP and RSS manage to always use whatever they do to polarize the Hindu vote. And in this case, as you know, as all along it has been obliquely conveyed that, you know, as if to say that only Muslims are criminals in Uttar Pradesh, because bulk of them who are on the government's target happen to be belonging to that community. So in this case also, and after when his encounter was shown to have taken place in a remote part of Jhansi district in southern Uttar Pradesh. And, you know, there were many questions raised about that encounter as well. The motorcycle on which he was supposedly moving when the police intercepted him, there was not a scratch on the motorcycle. The guns that was supposedly used by him, the pistols, they were in his hand. One pistol was in his hand when his body was shown there lying next to on the roadside. Now, first of all, how could he have been firing and also driving the two-wheeler at the same time? They said the police, he fired, I don't know, 24 shots at the police while driving the motorcycle. The accelerator is on the right, and he was firing with the right hand, and the pistol remained in his hand even after he fell down after being shot. What does it show? You know, all this concoction is so much visible that, but you know, if you become shameless and you decide to ratify everything, to justify everything, so no questions are being asked. But People are asking questions. We are asking questions. How did it happen? So obviously there is much more than what meets the eye in this case too. And even now, I'm telling you, I wouldn't be surprised if these two and the one encounter and the murder will be used to polarize once again in the elections that are coming next month.
A lot of people are going to argue that courts mein तारीख पे तारीख hoti hai. We never really see any justice. People get out on bail. People get out on furlough even after there is any sort of conviction. So why not this way? Doesn't it lessen the crime?
No, if the criminal justice system has gone to dogs, it is largely because of judicial lethargy and corrupt policing, as also corrupt polity. It is not because doesn't happen on its own. Somebody is protecting somebody else, or who are all indulging. It's you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Those who are blaming it, that doesn't mean even if the criminal justice system has gone to dogs, which it has, it doesn't mean that you take recourse to tribal justice. Then you should glorify whatever is happening in Taliban. And which is, I mean, this BJP, which condemns left, right, and center anything which might happen in Taliban, everybody condemns it, but they condemn it even more for the simple reason that it is an Islamic state. So now, but in this case, they want to adopt those very means. This is not the first time, Faye. 183 people have been gunned down in the 10,000 encounters that Uttar Pradesh government has carried out since Yogi Adityanath took over as chief minister in 2017. You know what? They had carried out 10,117 odd encounters, which they encounter by encounters they mean every encounter is not killing. So killing out of those is 183. The others, some have been left maimed, some have been left injured, some have been taken into custody, they've been arrested. So, but can you imagine in any civilized society to be taking pride in the fact that they have gunned down 183 criminals, according to them, hardened criminals? But fact of the matter is that most of them were not hardened criminals. Even if you were to justify these encounters, a lot of them were poor, petty thieves who were branded as big timers by the police only, which went to town announcing some bounty on their heads. And after they were gunned down, they said, look here, this guy carried a bounty of 10,000 rupees on his head, 25,000 rupees, 50,000 rupees, 1 lakh rupees. And invariably they were poor, petty thieves. And bulk of them, out of the 183, happened to be belonging to the minority community or Dalits. That is also a matter of fact.
This is the other question that brings me to the other question. We've also seen the Uttar Pradesh government use the bulldozer, which then became a sort of symbol of governance, symbol of revenge, symbol of we're going to come for you, and the language around it of this is what we're going to do to rioters, this is what we're going to do to people who sort of create nuisance and trouble. Is this code in Uttar Pradesh, Mr. Pradhan, for minority communities?
Well, that is precisely what has been happening. But when you point this out to the people in the government, they will name you some half a dozen non-Muslims also, Hindus. You look here, that fellow's house was also pulled down. But if they brought down 5 dozen houses, they will name only 5 Hindus because they don't have any other language. So, that is like saying when you say that encounters, it's largely happen with the minority community, they'll point out the case of Vikas Dubey. Or there are 3, 4 others. But Vikas Dubey's encounter was also, blatantly, glaringly fake. But they got it ratified. They put a former judge of the Supreme Court put a stamp on it, and a former DGP. About both, I must tell you, less said the better, the kind of reputation they enjoyed. Yet, UP government uses it for their for putting a feather in their cap that look here, we did nothing wrong. When it was worse than a C grade crime thriller of Bollywood, the plot that was shown in this case again. Now that Yogi Adityanath has decided, has announced, though, to set up a 3-member judicial commission, you can rest assured that the commission, I can tell you right now, because they have retired judges on the, they put retired judges on board. Invariably, such commissions, I've seen them over 45 years of my 45 years of journalism. Invariably, they put out tailor-made reports which suit the government. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is again repeated. And by then, the matter will die down, other things will come up. But the video itself speaks for you must say self. It shows the manner in which the cops, who were supposedly keeping guard on this hardened criminal Atiq, the way they were behaving. Did you see that none of them pulled out their weapons, their service weapons, to contain those fellows? So obviously there's something fishy. And these fellows also did not try to run away. The 3 of them.
Yes, they surrendered apparently immediately.
Sorry? They surrendered. They raised slogans of Jai Shri Ram and said, Jai Shri Ram, I surrender. I surrender. This is what happened. This is visible. And then the cops just grabbed them from behind without making any effort to, in any such situation, cops are not expected to be behaving in the manner that they did. If there is a shootout, the cops, the first thing they do is try to hit the person back with a gun. Well, of course, you are supposed to hit below the belt, below the knee. Nothing of that sort. No effort was made. Then, getting them to disembark from the police vehicle, which I am told was an outdated 1942 model Jeep. Now, they must have been a dilapidated one, a ramshackle Jeep in which they were brought, but they were made to disembark and walk some distance. Now, the very fact that you are making somebody of Atiq's profile walk that distance in an area, in a locality which has always been hostile to him, which is where he had allegedly committed that murder of Umesh Pal, for whom he is being now tried, and for whom his son has already paid the price. His son was the main accused, supposed to be the main shooter, and he has been gunned down by the police. So obviously, there is something much more than what meets the eye. And no matter what the police says, I doubt, other than only a blind person, blind maybe not physically blind, but blind in the manner that we are talking of andhbhakts today, they will naturally bow down before anything that is shelled out by the government. They lap it up. Even the mainstream media will lap up whatever the government says. But
Mr. Pradhan, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is the law and order situation in Uttar Pradesh right now? 10 being the best.
Well, according to the government's own claims, it is well beyond 10, because the government claims that they have established Ram Raj. I'm sure if poor Lord Ram was there, I wouldn't know what he would do to this kind of Ram Raj that is being claimed to have been established by Yogi Adityanath. But the ground reality is, I would not put it anywhere beyond 4. Anywhere beyond 4. Because, making claims is very easy. I told you the mechanism that they have is they have so much of money spilling around. For publicity, they ensure that their narrative is played up in the media. And people tend to believe that. Even now when they got these so-called MOUs were signed for 31 lakh crores, 31 lakh crores, I don't know how many zeros are there, but this was their claim. They held an investment summit here, and they claim that these MOUs are signed. Even 5 years earlier, they were signed. I don't know what happened to how many of them actually happened. Actually, there was the groundbreaking ceremonies were also held, but how much investment actually came, nobody knows. So whatever is going to happen, but their claim is that they are getting so many investments. essentially because they have transformed UP's law and order, which they say had gone to dogs during Akhlesh's time. I mean, and there's no doubt that Akhlesh's time law and order was bad. But how is it better now? I fail to understand. According to the NCRB report of 2021, if you see the figures and you calculate, there is a rape every 6 hours in UP in 2021, which is Yogi Adityanath's peak of his regime. And then you say we provided such security to women as nowhere else in the country. We have made things so much better. Law and order is so good that people are just dying to invest here. I don't know where they are dying to invest, but this is their claim, and that is lapped up by everybody. So, the reality, the myth, there is a far wide gap between the myth built up by the government and the ground reality.
Mr. Pradhan, the Uttar Pradesh police has increased security right now in Prayagraj. We understand internet services are shut. Section 144 has been imposed. They're conducting flag marches and they've patrolled various districts where the brothers were shot dead. What is the Uttar Pradesh police afraid of at this point?
Well, they start this is a routine practice of the UP government to get into the act. They'll remain. They just get out of their slumber when something actually happens, and then they will tell you everything. They are so alert, and they're taking out flag marches. Even in Lucknow, they took out a flag march last night. And
Right.
this is again, and you will find this being played up by the entire mainstream media. They will
Yes.
not talk of the lapses. In this case, it is not a lapse; it is complete failure, and
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it is some planned game as well.
Right.
So, and which a lot of people suspect, because there are so many questions which remain unanswered. These guys posing as media persons, they were carrying cameras which way, you being an audiovisual journalist, those cameras have not been used for years. Now, at least for 5-7 years, those cameras are not in use. And anybody, I'm sure the Allahabad police ought to be competent enough to see, and they can always ask, if you see a new face. I mean, I find in Lucknow, when there are so many times I'm asked for my identity, and there's nothing wrong in showing that. Nobody cared to do that, and especially when you are carrying high security prisoner with you, and so any journalist comes and decides to take a bite, and you facilitate him, and then when you get so close, as I can imagine, if somebody is shooting from some 50 feet away and running away, these guys come there. He puts the gun on his temple and shoots, and continues to fire. And all along, while he is fired 14 rounds, not one retaliatory fire has been made by the police. Not even an attempt to take out their guns. The basic training of any uniformed person. So all this goes to arouse suspicion about the role of the UP government and certainly the UP police.
Right. Mr. Pradhan, thank you so much for speaking with me this evening. I apologize for the crying baby in the background, but I'm going to go take a look at what's wrong. But I appreciate your time, and we continue to keep a close eye on what's happening in Uttar Pradesh, because as citizens of this country, we need to keep a keen interest in how law and order is being conducted. Because even if today you think that, oh, they were gangsters, so it's fine if they were shot down, what happens then is that trigger-happy policemen, and we've seen this happen in past in other states, take on assignments to call enemies gangsters and gun them down. They take on, supari, and that actually becomes a thing. And that tomorrow, any citizen walking down the street who has one or two enemies could be the target of an encounter, could be the target of small gangsters posing as TV reporters who shot someone in the presence of the police, and there are no answers there as to why that happened. There is a reason why our judicial system is set up the way it is, and why the law is designed the way it is, and why we need to follow the law in a democratic country. We need to ask more questions as citizens if we want to protect our democracy. Mr. Pradhan, thank you for speaking with us this evening.
Thank you.